Mic check, mic check. Welcome back to 3%er TV. I am your host, Moss Man. I want to get right into it. Religion is elementary. And what I mean by religion being elementary is like the same way when you leave preschool and you start first grade, what they're going to teach you are the fundamentals or expand on the fundamentals that hopefully you learned while you were at home. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 equals 4. A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Little things like that, And then as you progress, you learn how to multiply, divide. And I think it stops like around 5th grade where you stop multiplying and dividing. Little small things. And that's the same thing that religion is to the soul and to people out playing in the game and stuck inside of their prison. What happens is you think that you're going to church or you follow these religions for salvation. But that's like going to your 5th grade teacher and, trying to tell them to save you from life. Like they can't do that. That's not possible. What you were supposed to do was take the foundations that you learned and then expand on them. Then you're supposed to make it to middle school, high school, and then you're supposed to graduate. And from there, some of us take it to the next level where we decide that we want to go to the university and take our studies even further. But you can't be stuck, held back in elementary. And most of the world that follows religions are stuck in elementary and they never actually go out into the world and put to use what they've learned. They never take the next step, which is going into middle school. And they get stuck in elementary learning the fundamentals over and over and over and over and never taking it to the next level. And so then when they come across somebody who plays like Kyrie Irving, they're still stuck on a pivot. Well, my coach taught me that if I pivot and then I jump stop and then go to my pivot and make a sound bounce pass, I'll win the game. And it's like, well, yeah, that works when you're playing against other people that's on the same level as you. But once you get out into higher levels of the game, you got to learn how to take the fundamentals and expound on them. And a lot of people stop reading Dr. Seuss. And no disrespect when I say that, because I mean it with the utmost respect. But after you learn that it's one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, you gotta You got to expound from there and go to other things that can open your thought process up to different doors that can open and take you down different lanes. And you got to learn to fuck up and be okay with fucking up and not look at your fuck ups as a chance for you to be asking for forgiveness. With all due respect, I say this. Because that's the way that we learn. Before you could even walk into elementary, you had to learn how to walk. And learning how to walk, you had to hold on to things, you had to try, you had to fail, you had to try to figure it out again and be like, yo, what did I do wrong last time? How did I get my balance right? Let me get my arms out. There's a lot of different things that take place in failure that allows you to learn how to walk to the point where you don't even have to think about it. That's what elementary is supposed to be. You're supposed to practice these things over and over and over where you don't even have to think about it. And then you graduate. But so many people get stuck in this loop of, okay, I got to 5th grade. Okay, let's start all over again. Like, I can't tell you the amount of people when I was a young man going to church with my grandma or my mother, and the amount of people that were in the church that I looked up to that were saying, I grew up Christian, so I'll stick with Christianity. I read the Bible, and I'm in Revelation, and then once I finish Revelation, I'm just gonna go back to Genesis and start all over. And you see it in people's lives. They're stuck being the same person year after year after year. And they're never able to quite take that next step in their spiritual growth and getting closer to the real God because they're stuck in elementary. They never got into algebra and calculus and trigonometry and exploring different ways of being able to see the world because they're stuck. Well, if it doesn't say it in my book, then it ain't true. And this is coming from people who only read one book. And they get to a point where their identity comes from this book to the point where they don't even try to challenge that book or challenge their own identity. And maybe it might lead you back to where you started, but at least give yourself the opportunity to have the challenges to grow, because that's the only way that you can grow. But we would rather be stuck into thinking that, well, I figured out life through this book, and all I have to do is follow this book, and then that'll be it. And never pick up another book or never try to understand somebody else's religion. Maybe go to a different school. Maybe instead of going 1 through 5 at this elementary, maybe once you get done with that elementary and you kind of know what that elementary is about, go to a different elementary. Go to a private school and see how they teach that 1 through 5, since you want to stay in elementary. Because maybe then all of these other thought processes will force you to want to go, well, hey, what else is out there? What else can I learn? What else can I pick up? Somebody a long time ago wrote this book, and maybe they didn't write this book for today's time. Maybe. Or maybe they did, but I won't know unless I challenge it and go figure it out for myself. So for all the people that are judgmental and frown upon and look down upon people who backslide or leave the church or decide that they want to do things that don't align with the book that they were raised following, those are actually the people that you should be celebrating, because at least they're willing to take on challenges in life that they can learn, because that is what the mind is meant to do. The soul is meant to do. It's meant to be a sponge that soaks up everything and then spits out what it doesn't need when you squeeze it, when it goes through things. When you put pressure on it, it'll let out everything that it doesn't need and be left with the things that it does need from everything that it has soaked up. So if you know somebody who's stuck in the time loop of being committed to their way of living and their walk of life and their mental prison, maybe share this with them. And if anything, share it with them to piss them off. But that's kind of what I just wanted to talk about is, it's time for people to realize that we got to outgrow elementary and go to different levels, because how are you supposed to make it to the university if you're still stuck in elementary and you keep holding yourself back? And if you let the pressures of your community hold you back and the traditions that you are accustomed to hold you back from trying to see the light. They say that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but always is the key word. Because if it isn't always greener on this other side, that means sometimes it is. And you're never going to know unless you cross that bridge. So till the next one, stay suave, stay stupid.